What is going on, comic book gang? My name is Jancy, aka Year of the Collector, and I'm back again with another installment of the Thoughts and Reviews series. This time, I'm gonna be going over All in Superman issue 19. DC Comics, as a publisher, they had this like branding after the Absolute Power event in 2024, and some series got launched or relaunched or restarted, where some just carried on from what they had going on from the dawn of DC era. And this run by Joshua Williamson was on that boat, right? It didn't get rebooted or restarted, it just got rebranded with the All In logo. And then a new set of creators came in to join him in this amazing run, right? Then Mora finally jumped from like World's Finest and whatnot to be working on Superman with Joshua Williamson, and so did Alejandro Sanchez and Ariana Maher. Right before, it was mostly Jamal Campbell during the beginning of the dawn of DC era, and now we're here with the amazing Dan Mora. So let's jump right into my thoughts and reviews for this series. First thing first, Dan Mora is in this comic book. That was the first thing people said about this issue, and I was like, hell yeah, Dan Mora is doing the mainline Superman, because he was already doing Superman in World's Finest, which is great. But no, people meant that he was literally in the comic book. Dan Mora drew himself inside the DC universe. Looking back at this moment, I now realize this was Dan Mora's cry for help. We know that DC locked him up in a dungeon somewhere where he's been slaving away, making pages and covers and panels nonstop, especially after the news came out that he was drawing 800 characters in one page for the We Are Yesterday storyline. Shout out to Dan Mora, that's the stuff for legends. Also, I hope DC is compensating his work and not taking advantage of some loophole in a contract or something, because that would absolutely suck. As some of you may already know, Joshua Williamson attempted his best at writing a good, maybe even a great Doomsday story, which began back in August 2023 with the Action Comics one-shot, the Doomsday Special. Long story short, Doomsday died and was in hell trying to escape. The first of the fallen, sort of a warden type of guy of the Souls of Hell, made a call to Supergirl and Martian Manhunter to stop Doomsday from escaping. They didn't defeat Doomsday, but they did manage to keep him in hell, at least for a while longer. Then we fast forward all the way to September 2024 to Superman number 18, basically the last tie-in issue to Absolute Power. At the very last page, we saw Doomsday breaking free from hell. That's why when Doomsday appeared in Metropolis, he was breathing hellfire, because he got it during his time in hell. This villain's only claim to fame is the death of Superman, of course, not to brush that off, because it is still a big deal. However, if Doomsday was never written in any other story ever, he would have held that status to this day, like the guy that killed Superman, and that's the only way we will think about the character. Instead, he's been featured in many other stories that have not been that great in comparison. And unfortunately, it has sort of diminished the shock value of the character by making multiple appearances. This, however, is not that. The Time Trapper comes from the future to seek help from the Man of Steel, just to reveal himself as Doomsday. And that makes so much sense, just as a concept alone, right? I mean, the way Doomsday works as a character, just in case you didn't know, is that he returns after every death immune to what killed him. So at some point in that endless cycle, he will inevitably be reborn with godlike qualities, godlike powers. However, seeing him asking for Superman's help is something new, at least that I'm aware of, and that is the premise for this arc. There's other plots at play here, of course, the first being Lois Lane and her new status quo. She's Superwoman. No real explanation how this happened yet, but she's happy to soar the skies with her husband and help people with her new abilities. The scientists and research team at Supercorp are running all sorts of studies on Lois just to keep track of her powers, but they had no idea how it happened or why. Lois Lane as Superwoman is pretty cool, but if I may, Lois is being a little hypocritical with Jimmy, and I can't help but notice. In the Action Comics story by Rainbow Rowell, Lois moved Clark from covering Superman to a different assignment for the paper by citing a conflict of interest. Fair, right? And now she's asking Jimmy to get her pictures of Superwoman for the front page of the Daily Planet. And on top of that, she's actively making it difficult for Jimmy to get said pictures. Like, it's a game for her. It's actually kind of hilarious. Hopefully, it doesn't backfire any negative way. Wing foreshadow here. If you're caught up with the Superman series, you know what's going on. The other plot happening is centered around Lex Luthor and the fact that he lost his memory. This occurred during the House of Brainiac storyline when Luthor sacrificed himself to stop Brainiac. He connected his mind to Brainiac's mainframe and he'd help save the day, but lost all his memories in the process. He's been on his best behavior since, but it's mostly because he doesn't remember anything. Like Lena, his daughter, be playing footage of Luthor basically crashing out back in the day, and this new Luthor looks at that and he don't even recognize that other person. Like they're totally two different people at this point. And that in effect makes this Luthor a ticking time bomb, essentially. When it came to the all-in relaunch initiative, I was rooting for Williamson no matter what. I have been following this entire run since the dawn of DC, and I gotta tell you, there isn't a Superman out there that's better than Williamson's Superman at this point. With then Mora and Alejandro Sanchez bringing this story to life, I knew for certain that at the very least, it was going to look great. So there's that for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I think this era holds absolute power for Superman has been pretty good. We are almost 8 issues into the all-in era. We basically moved on to the branding now of the summer of Superman, leading up to the new DC Superman film. And I think it has been pretty great. But those are just my thoughts. Like I said, let me know what you think about this series, about Superman, about what's going on in DC Studios and all of that in the comment section. And with that being said, my name is Jiangxi, aka Year the Collector. Thank you for watching. You have a blessed day, and remember to read more comics.